welcome to Business Talk Sister Gawk. I'm Bekkah.
And I'm Ruthie.
And today we are going to be starting an episode about how to choose a business name. And we're super excited about this because we probably spent at least 20 minutes laughing about ridiculous business names before we started. So stay till the end because we are going to gawk about that for a little bit. Mm-hmm. So the first question we have is, Ruthie, where should we start?
Yeah, so I would say you should start by just asking yourself what you want to do with your business. You know, like, do you want to be more versatile in all the things that you do? Do you want to be very specific? You have to think through what you are willing to do, what you're wanting to do, and what you're wanting to do long term. So don't just think about short term and what you want to do right now, but think 10 years out. You know, like, where do you want to be at as a business, and will your name constantly reflect that as you continue to progress and move forward. So where I would start is just do some brainstorming. You know, we found this really cool business name generator.
Oh, my word. It's so fun.
We found some good places to start with that, which was mostly hilarious, but it gives you some good ideas of kind of what things would sound like if you threw different words together. And then think about the keywords that you want to have associated with your business.
Especially think about what services or products you're offering, right? And if you're saying, okay, well, this is the product that I have, how does the name relate to that product, mm-hmm. right? Or how does the service you're providing relate to the product that you would like to be using? And within that, I mean, take a step back and think about, all right, this is something that I want to provide. So ask your friends and family, does this reflect that service? Mm-hmm. Is this something that looks right? Or would you suggest a couple of things? I'm going to tell you right now, any person you ask is probably going to tell you yes or no, or have 80 more ideas for you. And don't feel like you need to be tied to one specific person's opinion about that. Get lots of different feedback before you start, mm-hmm. but also think about characteristics of what describes you. So if you're providing a specific service and it's something that's near and dear to your heart, or something that also reflects a little bit of your personality, it would be good to ask people and your friends and family, people close to you, okay, what exactly represents me? Like, what characteristics or virtues would you say that I have? Mm-hmm. And off of those things, you can even get a whole bunch more things. So if somebody says, well, you're really energizing. Okay, so there's a characteristic word. But what does that look like to then make that into a brand? Is it, okay, does that mean I give life to situations? Does it have something to do with maybe a tree or whatever, when you're thinking about logos to describe your business and your personality, mm-hmm. right? Also, another thing we talked about or have had discussions about is keywords and industry specificness. Should you have what you do in the name of your business? And Ruthie's going to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. I think one mistake that people make often is they pick a business name right away. I honestly would recommend sitting with it for, like, starting the process and then ending in about a month. So you start in the first week, you're doing all of that brainstorming, and you're compiling your keywords and thinking, okay, yeah, you have your industry specific keywords, you have your descriptor keywords, you have your personal keywords of things that you want, and kind of split it into those categories. So then you have almost this bank of words that you can use to describe your business, but also name your business. And then so you're doing that in the first week, right? Like, you're compiling this list, and then you're really hitting the ground and asking all of your friends and saying, what do you think? Here's what I want to do. What words would you use to describe that, keeping me in mind specifically? And then as you ask people about that, then keep adding to that bank and keep adding to that bank. And then at the end of that week, throw together some of your top 5 ideas. So you have this list of top 5 ideas of things that you think would be good for a business name that make sense. And keep in mind, too, you could have a really good idea of what you want to do, and you're like, oh, I could make it really abstract, and like, but think about, if someone was just looking at that, would they be able to tell what it is that you are wanting to do with your business? It's all well and good to have something that's really like catchy or whatever, you know, like and witty, but if nobody is going to understand it, they have to think really, really hard to be able to make the connections. It's not worth it, so think about that too. And so you've got this week, and the last day you've got your list of 5, and then sit with that for 2 weeks. Just tell yourself those names every day. Narrow it down to 1, and then tell yourself those names every single day. And try to, if that's what you want moving forward, that's going to be with you, again, thinking long term, potentially for 10 years or longer. So really make sure that, and I don't want to make this super, paralyzing to people, but I think it's worth taking the time to think through it.
But at the same time, I'm just going to come from the opposite angle of what Ruthie's talking about, because I'm the kind of person that I can't stick to just one type of business in my business. And when I came up with my business name, it was because of the story behind it. And for some people, if you're not good at articulating the story and making the story memorable, you totally need to take Ruthie's advice. Absolutely. But if you can talk with people and say, this is why I picked this name, and you can do that in less than 30 seconds, and it's a story that they are going to always come back to, oh yeah, I remember that company. That's fine too. And I'm just going to say, with just in my exploring of my business name, here's some okay, this is where I feel like maybe I shot myself in the foot, but at the same time, I don't regret that. So if you get it wrong, or if it's not exactly what you wanted, it's okay. So my business name is Wise Elephant Consulting. I have had a ton of people say, okay, yeah, we were working with you, White Elephant Consulting. And I'm like, yep, I am not a giant garage sale, which is a little bit awkward, but it's funny. But the reason I picked Wise Elephant Consulting, and I'll tell them that, is because I believe it is wise to talk about the elephant in the room. And all of a sudden, when you say that, and it's very short, everyone remembers it in the future. Oh, yeah, that's what her company name means. And if you can tell that story really quickly and yep, this is why I have that company name, it sticks with people and they remember it into the future. Maybe they don't remember it in the right detail, but then they go, oh yeah, that elephant in the room, that's what it is. It's an elephant company, which I really don't work with elephants, right?
And I think a good corporate example of that is that mattress company Purple. When you think about the name Purple, you don't think mattress company, but they've done a really good job at telling their story, and the marketing that they've done has been actually really good. And so they've been able to build their brand around that, and they've done a good job at telling the story of their company, even though their name doesn't necessarily reflect what they do.
But the nice thing about having a little bit of an ambiguous name is that if you diversify into other things, so for example, if Purple, the mattress company, were to say, okay, now we're going to start selling sofas or whatever else, within that, they're not just tied to number one mattress company, right? They have lots of options for how they can diversify their business, which is good to think about, because if you start, say, maybe as a car detailing company, and then you expand further, but your name is car detailing, it's a little bit harder and confusing for people who are looking for a different service that you also do offer. So thinking about how can you make it a little broader so you can branch out into new categories if you need to in the future, is going to be helpful if you ever have to pivot your business based on industry disruption or something else with an economic issue, whatever. You want to be able to be flexible enough to move your business if you need to.
Yeah. And I think that comes back to like Bekkah was saying earlier, knowing yourself well enough to know, am I going to be able to articulate this well and tell people the story if I do pick a more abstract name?
The next thing we're going to talk about in that is that name actually available? Does somebody else already own it? And can you use it for your business? Now, sometimes people think, well, there's someone on the internet that has this name. Okay, but they're in a different state or a different country. They might have a good website that has the domain name in it, but you can actually still use that name in a different state because you register your business name with the Secretary of State.
Whoop whoop, yeah.
And that's a way you can search. They have a search function within each state to find whether or not that name has already been taken. Now, it's important to know that if you have a specific business structure and you file your name, it will have that business structure on the end unless it's a certificate of assumed name. So lots of big words. I'm going to try to break it down for you.
Good.
If you file a name, so for example, my business is an LLC. So when I filed my business, it was Wise Elephant Consulting LLC. But because I don't want the LLC in my name, I then had to file a certificate of assumed name, or it's also known as a DBA, doing business as.
Wow, we didn't plan that.
Just talking out loud together, right? Now, if you're a sole proprietor, which means you are basically the company, you yourself, and you're paying yourself straight through, you usually just file a certificate of assumed name with the Secretary of State. When you look at that, so say, for example, you're like, wow, in the future, I want to start this whole product or whatever, and my business is this, but I need to do something with this, but I want to run it during the same thing. Surprise! You can actually file another certificate of assumed name for your original business as well. So you can have more than one if you need to. An example of this would be Business Talk Sister Gawk. That is a DBA.
Yes, it is.
Ruthie forgot that's how we filed
No,
that.
I just made that noise, and then I was like, that made me sound like I was surprised. So then I was like, I should state, yes, it is, like I knew that, which I did know that. I
just made you sound even more like, oh yeah, we did that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so when you file your business, so you're going to look it up, you're going to see, oh, this is available, no one else has this name, great. So you do the website information, you file it with your address and all of that, and then, surprise, you're going to get a whole bunch of junk mail about businesses, just so you know, because if you register with the Secretary of State, everyone knows that you now have a business and they're going to try to sell you stuff. You'll also get lots of spam in the mail saying, you need to renew your business name. Those are like independent companies trying to freak you out. You can actually renew your business name I think it's like every 2 or 3 years on the Secretary of State website. So, and it doesn't cost anything to renew it unless you like have not renewed it and it expired and you have to pay to get it back up and running again. Found that out. So anyways, so within that,
tell us about the domain name situation. Like, how do you pick a domain name with your business?
Yeah, okay. So another good way to start looking at whether or not a name is available is to look at, does anyone else have this specific website domain name? So you can look that up on like any major hosting company that sells domain names like GoDaddy or whatever and see, does someone already have this? Because sometimes someone already has purchased it and you can't get that. But if you put like, if you just change, sometimes they'll be like, you should get like a .io or .net instead of .com, because then you can have the same thing. I mean, that's fine to do, but most people are more familiar in the United States specifically with .com. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend going straight to like a .net or something else for an ending. You can, probably not the most universal for people trying to look up a website though. So what you can do though, if you have the same name as someone else in a different state, you can actually in your domain name add that. So like a lot of things up where in northern Minnesota have North Star in it, northstar.com, but you could say North Star MN for the state, or you can add North Star Development or whatever you want, part of your business name. Within that, when we were talking about keywords, especially within your industry, something you should really think about for searchability on the web. If you have in your domain name what you do, so say like construction or cosmetology, most people are actually probably looking for hairstylist. If you put those things in your domain name, it's going to show up for those things, especially by geographic location for people looking for those services. So definitely think about that as you're choosing a domain name. It's just as important to choose a domain name as a regular business name. Most people do them the same. For mine, it's wiseelephantconsulting.com, right? But within that, what does that look like? Is it searchable, or is there a specific niche market that you want to go after to make it more specific to an area? Maybe it's the city name. Are you adding that to it? It really depends on what your target market is as well. So think about that within how you choose a domain name. And when you choose a domain name, make sure that you're not paying a ton of money for it. Sometimes people will buy a whole bunch of domain names and then sell them for like $1,000 each. There's no way you should be paying that much money for a domain name.
And basically how they can do that is they find keywords and things like that are competitive right now, and they find all the domain names that they can associated to those keywords, and they buy them from someplace like GoDaddy, and then they will resell them to people who want them. Or there's some people who watch and they'll say, say you have a domain name that's going to be like expire, you have to renew it. They'll watch and wait for it to expire, and before you can go in and renew it, they'll buy it. And then you have to go in and buy it from them, which is just a sneaky, mean thing to do. But that
a lot of people do it.
Competitors will do that often too. If you have, even if it's not the same domain name as them, but they know that your domain name is going to expire soon, they'll just go in and buy it, and then your website is kind of sunk at that point.
Well, I think it's important to just pay attention to when your hosting provider says, hey, you need to renew your domain name.
Yeah.
Don't let it expire.
Yeah.
That's a big thing, because a lot of stuff with your website, if you lose your domain name, that's a lot of the authority that you've built with search engines over time. And then it's like, oh, just kidding, we're picking a new one and we don't have this old one anymore. You lose a lot of ranking.
And then you have to rebuild that all over again, because you'll have to make a new site.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can keep all of, if you have a hosting provider and you just plug in a new domain name, you can do that. But in terms of authority, it's basically like having someone you've had a relationship with for a really long time and then saying, sorry, this person no longer exists. Now you get to work with this guy. So
same qualifications, but you have to rebuild that trust again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Working with search engines is like building a relationship.
Yeah. Also, recently I learned that Bing has an actual system of how they rank people. So they have like a whole detailed, this is, if you have these things on your website, in general, this is how they will rank you. Google doesn't have that. They just leave it ambiguous so they can rank people however they want, which is a little sketchy to me. But I just found that out this weekend that Bing actually has a thing that you can look up, and they keep it updated and stuff. And if they have new algorithms that roll out, then they put that on there to say, this is a new way that we're ranking people. I just thought that was kind of sneaky that Google's like, yeah, we're just not going to tell anybody. We're just just do whatever they want.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So our Gawk portion today, oh my goodness, you guys. When we were trying to figure out what we're doing for this episode, we were like, let's see if there's any business name generators out there, which there are. There's many. We'll link to one in the blog post. But okay, so you can just type keywords in and then press generate, and it'll give you like a whole bunch of variations with different.
So the first one, Bekkah was like typing, ones that you would actually legitimately want to have in your business, and then she just settled on flabby. Like that was like, and then we just lost it. We just kept looking at all the ones based on the word flabby.
There's like, okay, you guys, it's so hilarious. Okay, I just searched that and then press generate, and it's like filled and flabby, ultra flabby,
hybrid flabby, inspire flabby. Just all these things. I was like, why would anybody want that?
This is one of my favorites. Photogenic flabby.
Smush flabby, calm flabby.
I think that they're just hilarious, because it's like, if you imagine a business, like I always think about what business would have that. Like if you were like, hi, I'm a photography business. Oh, what's your business name? Photogenic flabby. I specialize in making flab look good.
Okay. Good
These
to
are
know.
Just great names. And then, because we were having so much fun with this, we had to Google like hilarious business names / unfortunate business names. And we're going to link to those in the blog too. We'll probably share them on social media, but oh my goodness, Ruthie has some good ones.
There was one that was it's a salon, and it's called Curl Up and Die. And I just thought it was so funny. I was like, okay. Literally, Bekkah was like, okay, we just need to start recording. I was like, okay, but look at all of these. And I'm just laughing so hard. And the other one is, it looked like a corporate, I don't even know. It was like a more high up business. They had a really large team photo. So there's a decent amount of people that work there. It's called Boring Business Systems.
That's what we do for a living.
And then there was some that was like, they tried to do more like word play and stuff. And one of them was a bakery called Bread Zeppelin. And another one called Bread Pit.
I don't even know if that's even a word play. What
like
is that even?
Brad Pitt.
Oh, okay. I see. Wow, celebrity names into your business.
Yeah. And the last one, I don't know if it was like, it looks like someone's last name, like the way it's spelled, but it says Amy Gone Funeral Home. And I just thought that was so funny.
Amagon.
Amagon. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I would probably pronounce it that way.
The Amy
Amagon
Gone
Funeral Home.
Amy Gone. It looks like Amy Gone Funeral Home. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us this week. We always have fun, so thank you for being a part of our wonderful audience. You can find us at businesstalksistergawk.com. You can look for us on Instagram.
Tell your friends.
Share a link to our website or our podcast. We're on Spotify. Have a wonderful week.
Yeah, Ruthie, we just had like 80 call to actions there.
Yeah. Okay. Should we go back?
All right. We'll see you next week.